Hey, what's up, guys? Reese here with Wake Up the Light. Today I want to talk to you guys about Cleve Baxter, plant perception, and we'll get into a little bit of cellular communication. This was also known as the Baxter effect. So first, before I get into this stuff, I always like to research what kind of person we're talking about here. So Cleve Baxter himself, when you look up articles, when you look at interviews with his friends, when you look at interviews of random people, when you watch old videos of him, you can tell right away that this is a genuine, smart, caring guy with a really good sense of humor, a funny laugh, and you can just tell right away he's just a kind-hearted guy. So first history you find about Cleve Baxter is that he actually, right after World War II, he actually founded our CIA's polygraph unit. And you have to imagine the brains he had to have to do this and how good at his job he was and the trust that our government put in him. And so that went on for a while. Eventually he got bored of that, and in 1960, right after he stopped working for the CIA, he opened his own school, Baxter's School of Lie Detection. And this is where he would, he'd have cops come in and show from different departments and show them how to use the lie detector machine. And so this went on for a while, for another about 6 years or so, and everything was going great, everything was going good. He started his schools in New York City, and then he eventually opened one in San Diego, and he's working down there, and everything was awesome. For 18 years now, he had been the leading mind in the field of the polygraph. And so no one could touch him. He was the top of the field by far. And one morning he woke up, everything changed. It was February 2nd, 1966, and his whole world changed. He woke up in the morning, he's cruising through his laboratory, he's watering his plants, and all of a sudden he had the thought, I wonder if I could hook my polygraph unit to the leaf of the plant and see if I can get a reading. His initial thought was, I'll hook up the lie detector, and then I'll feed the plant some water. The water will go up through the roots, through the stem, to the leaves, and the leaves will act as a conduit to so that he can actually get a reading on his polygraph. And so he went and hooked up this plant, and he was amazed right away because the plant was showing the same signs that humans do when they first get hooked up to a polygraph machine. So he's blown away by that, and he's taking some readings, doing his thing for a little bit. About 15 minutes into it, he starts thinking, okay, what could have the scariest impact on a plant, or what could do the most damage? And he's walking around his laboratory, and so he's on the other side of the room, and he has the thought all at once, oh, I'll burn it. And so he had the thought fully intending that he was going to burn this plant. And as he had that thought on the other side of the room, this plant that was hooked up jumped off the scales on the polygraph. And so he was like blown back by this, and this is what changed the course of his life forever. So right away, he jumps into this stuff, and everything else takes a back seat, and he just starts doing research with these plants and his polygraph. And he has, multiple experiments going on in his laboratory day and night, 24/7. And so after a while, you can imagine this brilliant man figuring out a lot of different things. And one of the first things he figured out was the plant could actually perceive if it's an experiment or if they're really going to do it. So he would have friends come in and try to redo that burning experiment multiple times, and he found that if those friends didn't intend to actually grab matches out of their pocket and burn that leaf, and they were really about to do it, the plant wouldn't react. If they just came up and said, oh, burn it, the plant wouldn't react. And so he found this. He also found right off the bat that if you did an experiment spur of the moment, it would work a lot better than if he planned something out, went and got stuff for it, and told people ahead of time and went and did it. It was almost as if the plants were listening. And so this was just amazing to him. A really cool experiment that I love is he did a full automated experiment So he took the arm of a machine. He built a machine, or had a machine built with an arm on it, and the arm was connected to the machine, and the machine was a random event machine, and so it would drop the arm randomly, completely at a random time. And then in the arm was a bowl, and in the bowl was brine shrimp and some water. So the arm had a bowl of brine shrimp, and then below that was a tank of water, tank of boiling water. And so that's one experiment. He put a video camera to it, and then in a different room, completely separate room in that laboratory, he hooked up one of his plants to a polygraph machine just like usual. And he took up what is called a baseline reading to see what that plant is doing normally when nothing's going on. Took that baseline experiment, or baseline reading, he recorded it, and put a video camera on that experiment as well. This was actually filmed, you can find the video on YouTube, but he got the film crew and everybody out, he left, he turned everything on, and there was no other experiments going on. Both rooms were completely separate from each other in this laboratory. He found the reason they all left and wanted to do this automated in the first place was because he found that human consciousness has a huge impact on these types of experiments. And so he wanted everything gone to see what would happen when there's no human involved. And so sure enough, he left. They went to the city, far, far away, locked the place up. No one was in there. And the machine was going, everything was recording. And when it finally decided to randomly drop out of nowhere, the arm dropped, the brine shrimp fell into the burning bowl, or the boiling water, and killed him instantly. And the second they hit that water, the plant in the other room jumped off the scales with the polygraph. And so it's just amazing to think how impacted that plant was towards these tiny little brine shrimp. You'd think that they mean nothing, but to this plant they mean everything. And so it's just amazing to see that and think about how much of an impact any other kind of violence does to plants, animals, and humans alike. So after doing these experiments for a long time, he actually eventually got into cellular communication. And so he was able to get himself a centrifuge, which allowed him to grab samples of your skin or whatever you want to do, and it separates the red blood cells. And so he was able to use the centrifuge to take his friends' red blood cells and separate them, grab them, put it in a petri dish, and take these tiny little micro electrodes and hook them up to his friend's skin cells. The skin cells were connected to a polygraph machine and giving off a normal response, and which is amazing enough. And so that's in one room separate, and then he had his friend go into another room, and he had his friend sit down at an empty table, and he took a video camera, put it over his friend's shoulder, and he took a Playboy and threw it in front of his friend out of nowhere. And right away, his friend's skin cells in the other room jumped off the scales, or jumped a little bit, and so he was like, blown away. He reached for it. When he reached for it, his skin cells jumped. When he started looking through it, most of that's articles, or most of it was articles. I don't know if they still do Playboys, but he was cruising through, doing some reading, and it was about the same, staying the same in the other room. And he got to the centerfold, and then it jumped again. And so you see the idea here. He finally put the magazine down, and his skin cells calmed back down from the polygraph machine. So it's just amazing to see that this human being was connected to his skin cells in the other room when there was no connection, no wires, no devices or anything connecting the two together. Another cool experiment he did to show that distance does not matter with the skin cells and the cellular communication is he took, it was an astronaut, and he had the astronaut do the same thing where he collected his skin cells and he hooked them up to the machine. They synchronized watches, and he told the astronaut to cruise home on the plane, do what he normally does. Anytime he has anxiety or anytime he calms down, to write it down what time it was at and what it was for. And so he left the laboratory, went to the airport, had a little anxiety because he was almost late for his plane, got up in the plane, calmed down once he was in the air, had some more anxiety when he landed, and when his son was late to pick him up, got home, calmed back down. He recorded all this stuff and sent it back, and all of his recordings correlated to when his skin cell thousands of miles away would jump or would calm down. And so it shows you that distance doesn't matter with this stuff, this cellular communication. We're always connected. He actually wanted to hook up a real astronaut from the time that went to the moon and see if that kind of distance would matter, but he wasn't able to ever get it going. So this information was pretty pivotal in my whole wake-up experience. When I saw this stuff, it just blew me away that we could actually be connected to plants and animals all around us. And it really made me think differently, and I know it did the same thing for Cleve Baxter as well. And in fact, many of his friends went to him right after he had this long 18 years so far career at the top of his field in the polygraph. They said, "Hey, what are you doing, man? Like, you're not going to make any money for this. You're not going to get any funding. You're not going to do nothing. You're not going to go anywhere in life with this." And he just said, "Hey, I don't care. Like, this is too important. I feel like this is going to be important for someone in the future." And so that just shows you what kind of person he was, and that he wasn't in it for the money. He was just following his instinct. And whether you believe this stuff or not, that's not important. It's just good to get the knowledge out there. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Either way, don't let anyone ever divide you. We're all in this life together. I love you guys. I hope you subscribe and like, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace out.